Hey, what's up? How is it going? I'm Smog here, and welcome to the first live stream of the year. Today we'll be talking about the state of CSS report 2022, and we'll be talking about the latest features which developers have shared their opinion on about the state of CSS in the year 2022. And being the first live stream, we are doing a giveaway which involves a $29 state of CSS t-shirt, and anyone in Nigeria can actually claim that in cash for 20,000 naira. If it's your first time on the channel, kindly like, share, and of course, drop a comment in the comment section. I don't want to take too much of your time, and we just like dive right into the report itself. But before we dive into the report, there are a couple of things that you should know. So the state of CSS is like a working group, right? That decides to say, oh, what are the latest features in CSS? How are engineers using these latest features? And beyond CSS, it reviews some insights about the way engineers actually work, things like salaries and all of those things. Those are like the things that we dive into like later. Sorry, I'm actually a bit nervous. I don't know. I've done live streams like over and over and over again, but then I'm still nervous. I just guess it's like one of those things. If you are online, kindly just show some love, drop some comments in the comment section while we get into it. So the state of CSS website is at stateofcss.com. And the state of CSS is actually like in three parts. You have this landing page website, which basically gives information about the state of CSS, and you have the survey itself. So if you click on view questions, it takes you to the page where you take the survey, right? So one intriguing thing about the various facets of the state of CSS is the fact that so you have the survey, you have the results, and you have this website that we are on right now, and they were built with different technologies. Again, JavaScript is the ghetto, right? So this landing page itself was built with Astro. The survey was built with Next.js, while the state of CSS report itself was built with Gatsby.js. And I was so excited when I learned that this was built with Gatsby.js because I used to be a Gatsby.js fanboy, and it's kind of feel like Gatsby.js is falling off. But for something like state of CSS to be built with Gatsby.js is actually quite amazing and interesting. So if you're just joining this session, this is the t-shirt we'll be giving away. If you're in Nigeria, you can claim this for 20,000 naira by just answering a couple of questions after the live stream. So stay tuned and share this link with anybody that you think might be interested. So let's get into it. So I'm just going to come over to view results, and instead of starting at the beginning, I'm actually going to start at the back, which is the awards. So the conclusion is just like the note of the group about the state of CSS as at the year 2022. And we are just going to look at the most adopted feature, most commented, highest retention, and most writings. So the most adopted feature in the year 2022 was actually Flex Gap. And I think this is actually pretty obvious, right? Flex Gap, Grid and Flex basically came to solve the issues that we have had with layout in the web or on the web and CSS in general over the years. But when Flex came, it didn't ship with Gap, so you had to do a lot of margin padding and all of that, right? So when Flexbox Gap came out, it was pretty obvious that it was easy to adopt because a lot of websites were already using Flexbox. The only thing they just needed to add to it was just Flex Gap, right? So like I was pretty excited to see this. However, I still doubt that browser compatibility is 100% because I personally remember working on a project last year and we had to go back to using margin instead of Flexbox Gap because the CEO of the company essentially went to the website and everything in the navbar was just jammed up against each other, and we had to revert things. So yeah, so Flex Box Gap is the most adopted feature from the year 2022. That's pretty amazing. So the feature that or the technology that people commented on the most in the year 2022 was actually Subgrid. I've not had to use Subgrid, but I guess people who deal with a lot of complex layouts have had the need to use Subgrid, and this is the feature that people commented on the most about CSS. We'll still get to see what the comments look like by the time we dive into the report itself. And the technology with the highest retention, which basically means that in the year 2021, a lot of people said, oh, they know about this technology and they have used it, is actually CSS modules. Personally, I've not had to use CSS modules. I've used Tailwind CSS. I'm a Tailwind CSS fanboy. There's literally a video on this channel where I talk about like how to use Tailwind CSS with some sanity, right? So I was expecting to see Tailwind CSS, but CSS modules, well, not bad. In fact, I was working on a project today, And by default, Next.js actually ships with CSS modules. So maybe that's, and Next.js itself is getting a lot of adoption. So probably that's one of the reasons why CSS modules has a huge retention. And the technology with the highest writing was Arc. Arc apparently is a browser that is still, they've not fully launched. For you to access this, you literally needed to like join a wait list, and I don't have the strength to join. But then it seems like a lot of people had a lot of things to say about Arc, and probably you should check it out as well. So yeah, that's pretty much the award section for the state of CSS. You could check it out as well, and just like drop your thoughts and comments in the comment section. Um so basically the introduction just talks about what the team thinks about why they started the whole state of CSS and all of that, right? Then you have the t-shirt section, and we just dive to the data explorer, right? And one thing I love so much about this data explorer is the fact that it enables you to weigh not just CSS but engineers across engineers, front-end engineers, basically, right? Because you can come to this graph over here and basically select what data you want to compare with. So for example, you have yearly salary. So if you want to see, how much are engineers with high level of experience, how much are they actually earning? So if you come here to yearly salary, and you select years of experience, which is what we have right now, click on submit, and it gives us this data. And you can see that people who have less than 1 year experience apparently seem to be working for free. So if you are just getting started, you have less than 1 year of experience, and you are working for free, and you feel like you're not there yet, just know that about 39% of people who actually write CSS or who are probably front-end engineers also probably work for free. And you see that it is like 0% of the people who fill this form actually earn between 100K to 200K dollars. So go to a boot camp in 6 months and become a front-end engineer in Google. You know it's a myth now. State of CSS report literally shows that. And we have a video on this channel that talks about how software engineering is hard and how you can basically like navigate that murky waters. And you see that as the years of experience increases, so does the percentage in the amount of people who earn a lot also increase. So for people with more than 20 years of experience, you can see that 38% of such people actually earn between 50K to 100K, and 32% actually earn between 100K to 200K. 3 to 5 years, only 7% actually earn between 100K to 200K. So again, your year 1, year 2, year 3, you are not earning that much. I'm probably even in that category. I'm in Nigeria, right? And I work for a Nigerian company, obviously, right? So like, don't give up just yet. Like, you are on the right path. Like, you will definitely get there. And you don't have, of course, have to spend like 6 to 10 years before you begin to earn a 100K to 200K, because apparently we have 7%. You could just be part of that 7%, earning between 100K to 200K dollars, right? So you can check for a whole bunch of data here. You want to see, what gender has more experience according to this survey. Just click on it, and it's just going to load this data, waiting for a response. Just give it a sec. Yeah. So we have more men with less than 1 year of experience actually filling this survey or probably writing code, 1 to 2 years and all of that. So men seem to be dominating this survey, right? If you want to tilt, or if you want to have an opinion on something like this, if you believe that, more women are actually getting into tech or probably like writing more CSS than men, the only way to solve that problem, or to solve that, the only way to solve that problem is to simply make sure that you participate in a survey like this. So when the state of CSS 2023 survey is out, do well to participate in it. And the interesting thing about the state of CSS survey is that you don't have to fill all the questions. You don't have to answer all the questions in the survey. You can just answer the questions that you're interested in, and you can well be on your way. So this is basically Data Explorer. I feel like this is the most interesting part of the survey, where you are just able to compare a lot of things. You can compare libraries, right? Say material, Tailwind CSS, what is material UI? Then the years of experience. So how many people within these years of experience are using such libraries? And that can help you form a decision around the kind of technology that you want to learn, or you want to that you want to pick up, right? So let's go into the demographics, right? These are basically this demography, or the data shown here, is where people are living presently, not where they are from. Because to be honest, I was hoping to see Nigeria on this list. So it's one of two things. It's either there are Nigerians who fill this survey and don't live in Nigeria, or there are Nigerians who live in Nigerians and didn't fill this survey. Like, I think it would be really amazing to see Nigeria on the state of CSS 2023 report. So if you're a Nigerian black person, please do well to fill the report in the future so that maybe your country can be featured here. So obviously more people are from the United States of America. Then you have Germany, France, and all these other um, all these other all these other countries. Cool stuff. Happy Sunday, Ajaya Kande. Happy Sunday. How are you doing? Share your thoughts about this survey so far. And also another thing, in order to raise money, you can actually sponsor any chart on this. Like, I feel like this is just so brilliant. You can literally sponsor any of these charts for I think $10, and it goes to the state of CSS team. Probably WebBoss will come and sponsor one of these just for $10, and your name will be featured here for life, that you were part of the people that made history. So as I was saying the other time, right, that if you're filling this survey, you do not necessarily have to fill all the questions, right? And you can see that while a lot of people were completed the survey between 80 to 90%, we still have like a handful number of people or a bunch of people who only filled from like 0 to 10%, right? So if you feel like you don't have the time and you just want to fill a portion of the survey, it's something that you can definitely do. In terms of age, right, I feel like this is one of the most shocking insights to me, right? Because most people who participated in this survey, or probably who are even like maybe software engineers who are probably like working in companies and all of that, actually between the age of 25 to 44. So you are 19 years old, Gen Z, Nigeria University, and you already feel like you've not made it in life. Alaye, calm down. Like, you're still going to get there, right? Like, basically, there is time to learn, and it's never too late to learn. Because if you have people between the age of 45 to 54 who are still doing stuff, filling surveys like this, who are still writing code, then it's never too late for you to like pick up writing code as well. I literally feel like this is becoming like a software advisory live stream than a state of CSS. But I feel like these are just insight. This is what the survey is saying, right? And I feel like it can just be a source of encouragement to some people out there. So in terms of company size, you can see that most people actually don't work in big companies. That's what this survey is saying. Because if you have 9.7%, which is almost like half of people working in a company size of 100 to 1,000, it just shows that a lot of people don't actually work in big companies, right? And the survey did expose that people make money from this stuff, but like years of experience, of course, actually kind of matters, right? Okay, yeah. So this is the survey for the yearly salary. So you see that most people actually earn between 50K to 100K. Then every other thing just queues to the left. All right. Somebody says you still have hope. Thank God. Yeah, actually, you certainly do. I think let me just put that on the screen. This guy says he still has hope. Thank God. I don't know. What are you doing right now? Are you a student or something? And all of that, right? Please just drop comments in the comment section. And of course, a percentage of people who fill this survey were men. Like I said the other time, you feel like there are more men in tech, definitely make sure that you participate in the state of CSS 2023 survey. Probably when the survey is out, probably do a live stream to look through the questions and probably have some people even fill it online. If you're just joining this live stream, this is State of CSS 2022 report. And basically what we are just doing is looking at the data both as it relates to CSS and also as it relates to software engineering in general. We'll be doing a giveaway of a $29 t-shirt, which is basically the State of CSS t-shirt. But if you're in Nigeria, you can claim it for 20,000 naira. For 20,000 naira by just answering 3 simple questions that I will drop after this live stream. So the first person to get all the questions correctly over the course of 24 hours gets to win this. So yeah, so let's get back to it. So that's basically all about the demographics. You see the race and the ethnicity. And also one other thing that I didn't mention is you can toggle most of this data. So right now, what you have is kind of like a bar chart. You can come over here, which basically just reviews like, I think, like the top 10, especially for like things like sources and like company size, maybe not company size, things like country or region, languages and all of that, right? If you toggle here, you can see a more detailed overview of even countries that are not like on that top list. And if you need to play around with the JSON data to do anything, you can just click on this guy and copy and paste. They have a GraphQL playground as well that you can just click on and just go and play around with. So This is pretty interesting. Olalekan says, wow, I need to take my web development serious. Yeah, and it is not too late to take it seriously. That's basically one of the things that this survey is revealing essentially. So that's all about the demographics. You can look into the report yourself in order to, if you need more information, if you need more insight, please, I encourage that you look into the report yourself. So the next thing that we are going to do is look at the features of CSS. Let's see how much people know about these CSS features and how much people are using it. So if you go on Twitter and you see somebody talking about a new CSS feature, and you are feeling dumb already, like, what exactly am I doing with my life? Like, almost everybody seems to know this, right? What this report is going to reveal to us is like how many people are actually using this stuff. Because sometimes you may know about something, but what you're just working on, or maybe because of the kind of industry that you are in, you do not necessarily have a need to use that thing, right? So that's what this part of the survey is about. And it is kind of it is grouped in a way. So you have the layout part, you have shapes and graphics, you have colors, interactions, typography, accessibility, selectors, and other features. So you can toggle this data in three ways. So if you click on groups, it's going to show you this data, and you can click on awareness. So it's going to rank it from the features that people know about the most to the feature that people know the least about. So the feature that people seem to know about the most, which of course won the award of the most adopted, or is it highest retention? I can't remember now, is flex gap. So you can see the ratio is like 87.6%. So out of 12,330 people that fill this form, actually 120 who know about this feature, 11,242 people have actually used this feature, and I think that's pretty amazing. Aspect ratio, even if it's for images, or if you've watched one of Kevin Powell's videos, you probably have heard about aspect ratio, I think the only thing I've had to use aspect ratio for is just to make something look like a square. I have not had other use cases. Like, is there anybody else that have had other use cases for aspect ratio? For me, that's just been to make something look like a square, then I move on with life. Then filters, I actually feel like filters should have more awareness. I mean, like, how do you make things look pretty? Like, it's filters. You want to blur something out. It's filters and effects and all of that, right? So, but then it is what it is. The people have spoken, and the level of awareness is not so bad as well, and a lot of people seem to be using filters as well. Variables, I think this should be all over the place. Var dash dash, then the name of whatever it is that you want to call that variable. It really makes it easy to be able to scale values across your code base and all of that, right? Yeah, like I said again, you can dig deep. This is just like an overview. And maybe for some people that don't even know how to navigate this survey, maybe you've been hearing about the state of CSS survey, a state of CSS, and you don't even know, oh, what exactly should I be looking for? What exactly should I be looking at? This is how to navigate it. So that is by awareness. The next thing we have is by usage. So flex box gap is still at the top. Then we have variables being the next thing across that. So the inner circle represents people who have used this particular feature, while the outer circle represents the people who know about it. So that's why if I come to by awareness, you can see that this thing kind of moves about a bit, because a lot of people may know about something but may not be using that thing, while a lot of people may be using something but not a lot of people actually know about it. I hope that kind of makes sense. And there is a section dedicated to all of these features that kind of digs deeper into all of these features. So knowledge score, out of all the features mentioned, so how many did you respondents know about? So about 16.2% of the people who filled this survey only know about 0 to like 10%. So imagine that 10 10 okay, 10 is quite small. Let's say 20 features were mentioned in this survey, right? So 16.2% of people who fill this form essentially just know about 10% of that, which is just like 2 features. I feel like that's terrible. How will you be writing CSS professionally, or probably on a day-to-day, and you only know 10% of like the new things that is happening? I don't think that's a good number. But then from then only 1.9% of people who fill this survey actually like seem to know everything. So yeah, if there is anything you are seeing in this survey that doesn't look familiar, I've looked through this survey. There are a lot of things that don't look familiar to me as well, right? Just know that you are not alone. There are a whole bunch of people that don't know all these things as well. So there's still room for you to be able to pick up and get better at CSS, right? Now, the next thing on here is layout, right? So like I mentioned, subgrid seems to be like next new thing, the next holy grail in terms of layout, right? I've not used Subgrid. I can't even explain what Subgrid does, but from comments online, people say, oh, Subgrid seems like make their life really easy. And as I was saying the other time, right, if you want to check people's opinion about a feature, you can just come over here and click on this call out icon. You see it has a number in it with 126. That represents the number of people who drop the comment. And someone says, I love Subgrid. Yep, full bar comment. This person was probably testing out to see the way this thing works. Very excited about this, waiting for browser support, which I guess is the reason why only 10.2% seem to have used this feature. And probably they used it on pet project or something to just play around. They probably didn't use it for something that went into production, because if you still browser compatibility issues, then it means that you can be running it on the latest Chrome version of Chrome, and your users are using the oldest version of Safari, right? If the adoption level is really low, then there's a low probability that engineers will also be using that feature as well. Then the next thing is writing modes. I feel like not a lot of is Gap not the same as FlexGap? Because Gap also works for Flexbox, not only Grid. Yeah, so that's the thing, right? So that's the thing. So Gap is the same as FlexGap, but there needed to be a support for, like, when Flexbox shipped, there was no such thing as Gap. If you used Gap on Flexbox, like when Flexbox shipped, it's not going to work. It didn't ship, like V1 or Flexbox, let me put it that way, didn't have Gap, right? So there had to be a support of Flex for Gap. I don't know if that's the best explanation. Like Flexbox, like Gap needed to be so imagine Gap as an utility that needed to support it for Flex. Initially, Gap only worked with Grid, so there was compatibility for Gap to also work with Flex. So yeah, I think that's like the response to that answer. I don't know if it is satisfactory enough. If you don't find it satisfactory enough, please drop a comment and I will attempt to like explain further. So right now, like I mentioned, right, even some browsers still don't support Gap being used in Flex. So that's why Flexbox Gap is actually a thing. In fact, I didn't know that Flexbox Gap was actually a thing until I started looking through the survey as well, right? It just felt like one of those things that just ships with stuff. So it says, true, it didn't work before. It's relatively new, satisfactory, amazing. Thanks for asking that question. Please, if there's anything I'm saying, if I'm jam talking, please just call me out in the comment section. I don't think that I have shit figured out. Like I'm just like, we're all just like basically trying to just learn and get better, right, over this live stream, and we hope to like be able to do more stuff like this. So writing mode. So I was saying that there is a high probability that if you're not working on projects or web apps that will be used across various countries, right? You know, the thing is, when you build a website, the natural intuition is that anybody on the internet can access the website, right? But there are some websites that needs to be like country specific. Let's say, for example, you're building a website that will be used primarily in the United Arab Emirates or something, maybe in Dubai or something, right? They probably write Arabic, right? The writing mode in Arabic is right to left, not left to right. But if you are building English websites, right, you most likely will not ever have to deal with like writing modes. So even though, so in 2019, not a lot of people knew about writing modes, right? Probably that was when it was just getting introduced. In 2020, still not a lot of people. 2021, not a lot of people. In 2022, a lot of people now know about, because the value here is almost 2x of what we have here, right? So a lot of people now know about writing modes, but not a lot of people are still using it. Why? Because they are probably not building projects that needs to be used across different regions. And as you're going through this survey, you can actually check through Can I Use, which is basically a website that tells you if a feature is ready to be used, right? Or you could just read through the MDN docs to get information about that particular feature. So writing modes, it looks exciting, looks interesting. In fact, if you read through the comments, someone was talking about the fact that they use this for I've forgotten that they use it for a hack or something. It says, I've really had an opportunity to work with vertical languages, but it's really interesting when I have. I've also used this as a little for stylistic reasons on personal projects, but I never see clients slash designers doing this. So that makes a lot of sense, right? A lot of people know that writing mode exists, but not a lot of people are using it because they don't have projects where they have to use it. And this person has used it on personal project, which is probably like what engineers should do. If you feel like something is exciting and you're not seeing a project at the office or at your work, just go ahead and build something personal. It does not have to be big. It does not have to be the next thing that will compete with Google or Facebook, but then just build something and that's like know the way these things work. So the next thing is CSS logical properties. To be honest, until I looked at this survey, I didn't know what this thing meant, but it seems to be gaining a lot of adoption because more people seem to know about these, but and a lot of people seem to be using CSS logical properties, and I think that's interesting. Then aspect ratio, finally now you can create a layout and easily set an aspect ratio that can scale. And like I said, for me, I've only had to use aspect ratio when I needed to make something square, and all thanks to Kevin Powell for popularizing aspect ratio. I think is one of his videos is where I first saw aspect ratio being used in layout or image design, right? So yeah, definitely check out Kevin Powell. He does amazing stuff on CSS. And I was so surprised that you could be creating content about CSS and have over 600,000 subscribers on YouTube. Like that was just mind blowing. Well, nothing is too small, right? So, and if you're thinking of starting your content creation journey, maybe this could be another encouragement that it's never too late. You could literally be an expert in any niche. The state of CSS, we are reading the survey, there's someone creating content about CSS and he has over 600,000 subscribers. That's amazing. Content visibility, I've never had to use it, but then more people seem to be using it, and a lot more people seem to be knowing more about it, even though more than half of the people who fill this survey still seem not to know about what content visibility is. So if you don't know what content visibility is, don't worry, you are fine, you are all right. Don't feel dumb. Then Flexbox gap, from 2021 to 2022, that was a massive job from 55% to 80.4%. So it means that more people are using Flexbox Gap. But I am still intrigued about the browser compatibility of Flexbox Gap because, like I said, I have used it and it just seemed not to be working across all browsers yet. But I feel like we're going to get there. Then at container, which is basically container queries. I think one of the major issues with container queries is the fact that you literally have to stop thinking. You're literally there to for lack of a better word, rethink the way you think about queries, right? Because there is a way we are used to thinking about queries, which is, oh, at media screen, then you ask the max and all of those things, right? But container query seems to have some extra steps to it, right? While the use case for it actually makes a lot of sense because you are not thinking in terms of the screen, you are thinking in terms of like the content on screen, right? I feel like probably the reason why a lot of people are not using container queries yet is because there's an extra step in terms of like learning. You know, that's like wrap your head around the way it works. But I feel and I hope that is one of the things that will be adopted in the future. And to be honest, as I was looking through this survey and I'm seeing that more new features are coming out, right? I might be wrong, but I feel like CSS is getting to a place where it is becoming overly complicated. Like right now, there seems to be like a lot of things. Like if you disagree with me, please drop your comments in the comment section. If you agree with me, please drop your comments in the comment section, right? I feel like a lot of features are coming out in terms of CSS now that people can't really focus on styling, but are kind of focused on processes. While I understand for maybe like there are use cases for a lot of these features, which is obviously why they are developing them. But sometimes I look at some features, I'm like, is this really necessary? Or maybe I'm just dumb enough not to be able to catch on new things. But then that's just like my own personal thoughts. And of course, I'm not going to tell you, oh, this is one feature that I think is being over-engineered or is not be needed in CSS. I will never do that. Who am I? I'm just an engineer in Nigeria trying to figure out life. Yeah. So object view box, I think this made it to the survey in 2022 and not a lot of people know about it. So yeah, you are fine. So let's see what 2023 is going to look like, and maybe more people will know about it, and maybe more people will even get to use it. So viewport percentage length units, like that even seems a mouthful. I don't know, what is this supposed to be used for? Let's check MDN. I was avoiding checking MDN because probably after checking MDN, I probably would not even be able to explain whatever it's here. Then you have a lot of things here, and I'm seeing it seems some of these things are experimental because I'm seeing this whenever you're reading through MTN and you see this, what they call this, is it beaker or conical flask? Just know that that thing is experimental. So this is probably not stable yet. That's probably why a lot of people don't even know about it or are using it. Media queries range context. What does that mean? Anybody know what media queries range context is? And I think at this point, there should be junior CSS developers, mid-level CSS developers, senior CSS developers. Like companies literally need to start hiring people who understand like CSS like deep, 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 deep. Because the truth is, some of these features, even though they look intimidating, I feel like when you understand them, it's just like if you styled things with flow left, flow right back then, right? When Flex and Grid came out, you trying to like learn something new, right? And it felt like a lot of work for some people. A lot of engineers starting out today are probably don't like they find it difficult. I think one of the things that a lot of engineers that I have interacted with find difficult is wrapping their head around like the way Flex and Grid works. Of course, after some time they figure it out, right? So I feel like there should be engineers whose job is probably like focusing on CSS within companies. I could be wrong, but then that's just like my own opinion, right? So yeah, because there seems to be a lot of things that is coming out, and it's quite difficult for people to catch up. It's CSS is literally becoming the JavaScript ecosystem where you breathe in and breathe out, and there's a new framework that is supposed to make your life better. But then that framework is going to have a lot of catchers. But that's not why we are doing this live stream. We are going to do some other stuffs in the future. So shapes and graphics. So let's see what's happening in the world of shapes and graphics. Blend mode. I was actually utterly surprised that just 38.2% of people are using blend modes. Like, then the question is, how do you people design? It means that you people are probably stressing your designers. And I'm sure that designers are not on this live stream, so they don't even know that there's something that's supposed to make life easy for them, right? I wish I could show a sample here, but basically what blend mode is, let's say you have an image and you want to like redden it in a way, you can just add a div and set the blend mode to, let's say, overlay or multiply, and it's just going to add that very nice effect to it, right? So I'm so surprised that a lot of people are not using blend modes. Maybe they don't have a need to use it, right? But I was totally surprised. Filter and effect, amazing. If you've ever had to create a modal that has a blurry background, oh, not a blurry background, sorry, that's wrong. Backdrop filter is what you would use. It says, it says, now designer they do my blend mode. I cannot stress. I beg. You people are stressing your designers, so that's why designers will come on Twitter and they will not be saying that developers cannot implement their work and all those things. So please, let's pick up the new tools so that we can make life easy for our designers. But then they don't know these things and they won't join live streams like this, so you can get away with it. So David says you cannot stress. So okay, it's all right. So yeah, so filters and effects, a lot of people seem to be using filters. I think there's a video on this channel, a short video on this channel where I try to show how to make an image, turn an image into black and white. Very interesting things that you can do with filters and effects. And David also adds that you can use backdrop filter, which is the next feature for things like glassy background. You see people with Nasabi, you people are mad as engineers. Backdrop filter for glassy background. And also if you had to create modals and you wanted the background to be blur, backdrop filter is the tool that you should be using. And not a lot of people seem to be using this. And even a huge percentage of people seem not to even know that backdrop filter is a thing. Intrinsic sizing. I'm sure that I have to see a definition of what this is before I'm even able to give an opinion. Okay, so things like main content I think this makes a lot of sense, right? Intrinsic sizing. A lot of people seem to have used this, except maybe, of course, the percentage of people who actually answered this question seem to have used it, because that's the other thing about data. If 10 people, if out of 1,000 people, 10 people decide to fill this survey, and 6 of them say that, oh, they've used intrinsic sizing. Of course, you come on this graph and it appears like a lot of people seem to have used intrinsic sizing, but this looks very interesting. Conic gradient. It feels like one of those things that you've heard of before, but you've probably never even used it, right? So, and yeah, a lot of people have never heard of it. They are not even sure what it is. Not a lot of people have used it, and just a few percentage of people have used it. And you have some recommended resources. Most of these resources are actually sponsored by Front-End Masters. You can check out Front-End Masters. Front-End Masters is actually amazing. I'm currently taking a course on algorithm and data structure. And finally, algorithm and data structure is making sense to me. Please don't ask me to solve your algorithm and data structure problems. I'm basically trying to figure shit out. But then you should check out Front-End Masters. And this video was not sponsored by Front-End Masters, by the way. So color. Honestly, I used to think I think colors, if you are being honest, are one of the complex and complicated things in CSS or in life generally, right? Because for someone who has like a background in graphic design, right, you got into the world of graphic design, I'm just going to tell you RGB, CMYK. Whenever you want to print, just make sure that you do CMYK. Whenever you want to design something for digital space, just use RGB. Then I got into web development or software engineering, and I'm hearing things like HSL. I'm hearing things about percentages. Like colors seems to be getting more complex by the day, and this feature is experimental. So if you don't know about it, you are in a very good place. Yeah. So don't let us dwell too much on that. One feature that I think is actually exciting, by the way, is actually accent color, because accent color allows you to be able to modify things like checkboxes. You know, if you've has anybody here ever had to build a custom checkbox and kind of explain like how stressful, how strenuous that was? So with accent color, you can basically like change the color of your checkbox when it is checked. I think this is amazing. This is looking interesting. I feel like these are like the really much more useful features in CSS that needs like some level of publicity, because not a lot of people even know that this feature exists, that you can change things like checkbox color by just using like an accent color. Current color, basically what it does is one of the ways that you can inherit color from like parents. You can check out the MDN. A lot of people seem to be using this, which I think is pretty amazing. Color mix, I don't even want to wrap my head around what that looks like. I don't know. It seems like there are some people on the CSS working group team that just like playing with colors. Like they're just so excited about colors. I know if I think designers, which begs for a question, like should designers actually learn how to code? Because I feel like designers would be very super excited to be mixing colors. But bro, I'm an engineer. I just want to write a modal, put some nice stuff in it, send some requests to the backend, and let make life easy for the users, right? So I feel like sometimes designers, if your designer wants to be stressing you, I beg, just come to state of CSS, pick MDN link, send it to the guy. The guy should not stress you, right? And like it's just so interesting that a whole section is dedicated to colors. You have wide gamut colors. I'm sure that for years to come, not a lot of people will probably like use some of these features, but I think that the people who are working on this, and considering the fact that some people are using this, adoption tend to like increase. Then interactions, yeah. So scroll snap, not a lot of people knew about this in 2019, and almost but usage seems to have increased, right? Over scroll behavior, I don't know what this is, but a bunch of people seem to be using this, but still not a lot of people know what this is. Okay, yeah. Touch action, I think this would definitely be related to mobile or something. And I don't understand why that is under interaction. So allows alignments region can be manipulated by a touch screen, for example, by zooming features built into the browser. So I guess this is for people who do mobile first development, which I think is amazing and interesting. This is probably something that you want to check out. Scroll behavior, I think that should be things like smooth and all of that, right? A lot of people seem to have used this in 2020. Scroll bar gutter, I don't know what that is, but I don't know what that is, and there are 72.2% of people who are with me on this as well. So I'm not feeling dumb, but then definitely something to check out in the year 2023. Now let's look at typography, font display. I think everybody should know. At least if you don't know what font display does specifically, but if you've taken a Lighthouse report, you probably have seen that the recommendation is to use font display swap. And that's like end of discussion for me personally, right? And not I think there was even a drop. There was a 9%, 0.9% drop in the percentage of people who use font display between 2022 and 2021. Line clamp, I don't know what that is. I have not used it. And 50, more than half of the people who fill the survey, I think I filled this survey. So I'm probably already in here, part of this 50%. So I'm part of the 50% of the people who don't know what line clamp is. But there's some really smart people out there who have used this, and some who have not used it. Variable fonts, I think I stumbled on this in a code base, and me and a co-worker tried had to go and check what variable font is. And I think that's also like another interesting way to learn. When you go into a code base and you see something looking strange, instead of you just backing out and be like, oh, I'm not sure I want to touch that shit. Sometimes just dig deep and you might just learn like a thing or two. I feel like at this point, basically what we are just doing is comparison of okay, how much people have used this, how much people have used that. You can basically like just go to state of CSS. I think one good thing that you may want to that this does for you is that at least you're able to know the latest features in CSS, and you can determine the ones that you might probably want to add into your pipeline of learning for the year 2023. So I think the other thing we are just going to I'll just jump from features and we're going to go into CSS frameworks, right? And to be honest, the framework I was expecting on top, you probably guessed, is Tailwind CSS, and that is the case. So for all the Tailwind CSS slanderers out there, I'm sorry, but Tailwind CSS the um, seems to be the framework or the CSS library that has the highest retention. So it started moving up from 2019 to 2020, 2021, and to 2022. The other one that is close to it is pure CSS. Interestingly, I've never come across this. Then we have Bulma. I've heard about it, but I've not come across semantic UI. I've seen you, except maybe you are trying to like learn a lot of CSS frameworks. You probably would just be using like one or two of these. But I was really excited to see that Tailwind CSS was at the top of the table. Experience over time. Okay, yeah. So this is people giving feedback regarding the tool. In so it seems that more people are choosing not to use Bootstrap, and I think I'm one of those people. I used to be a Bootstrap fanboy until I discovered that when you are in a Bootstrap code base, you basically have to write a lot of vanilla CSS in order to make your Bootstrap brand centric, which is basically like make it look like a brand. So that's one of the reasons why I stopped using Bootstrap personally. Then you have Material CSS. I'm interested in seeing what Tailwind CSS is saying. So we'll not use just a very small percentage. Then a huge percentage is interested in it. Then 25% is also not interested in Tailwind CSS. Don't worry, we don't need you guys. Just day your day. And just about 4% have not heard about Tailwind CSS. I think that's not bad. I feel like Tailwind CSS has the most positive feedback across all of these, right? Because if 51.7% of people say they would not use a tool again. That's massive. And for Material CSS, a huge percentage of people have never even heard about the CSS library. And design, 46.1% have never heard about it. That's pretty shocking. Tailwind CSS still is at the top of the table. Can you, like, if you're on the call and front-end engineer, please drop what your favorite library is, what your favorite CSS library is. For me, it is Tailwind CSS. Sometimes I'm forced to write vanilla CSS. Sometimes I'm forced to write styled components and all of that. But Tailwind CSS, anytime, any day. Then you have the negative, positive split, and Tailwind CSS still seems to be leading here, obviously. Then we have some other tools. We have SAS. Yeah, it seems a lot of people still use SAS. Chakra UI seems to be gaining a lot of adoption. I tried using Chakra at some point, but Tailwind CSS. I think one of the interesting things, now I'm doing a plug for Tailwind CSS. Someone said Tailwind now. I think one of the reasons why personally I just enjoy using Tailwind CSS is the fact that it doesn't ship with any component. Once something ships with a component, then you are already within some box, you're already within some constraint, right? So that's like one of the reasons that I really love Tailwind CSS so much. And other tools just there. How happy are you with the state of CSS frameworks? A lot of people are neutral about the state of CSS frameworks. A whole lot of people seem to be happy about it, while just 8.8% are very happy about it. Some people decided not to answer. Then just very little people are very unhappy and unhappy. Probably I said Tailwind CSS. Maybe CSS library makers could do better. And he said, "Oh, Chakra is good though, especially with React." Oh, interesting. I don't know if I'm going to check it out anytime. So I was about to say, oh, I will check it out, because that's naturally what somebody who's doing a live stream or something like this would say. But then I can't make any promises. But then I just might check it out, maybe for a project in the future. Now, CSS in JS. What are the CSS in JS tools that people are using? I expect that styled component should lead this table, but let's see what is leading the table. Styled component is purple. Okay, So somebody said, actually, my question, please ask your question, please. And anybody in the comment section can actually respond or answer the questions. It does not necessarily have to be me. Just think of me as an anchor or a what do you call it, or a coordinator for this live stream. So okay, you said you want to ask the question. Why are you still with CSS, right? Okay, I think that question is directly to me, and I have no choice than to answer it. So why I personally use Tailwind CSS is because Tailwind CSS feels like writing vanilla CSS. The only thing is you don't have to go into a style sheet and start writing your properties from scratch. And I should also add that I only enjoy using Tailwind CSS in React projects. When I'm building stuff from scratch, I don't use Tailwind CSS. I prefer to use vanilla CSS. And the reason is this: because of the way React is set up, you are building stuffs with a component approach, which means, for example, if you have a button, you can basically set up variants for a button and just add like the classes that will help you style that button, right? And you can pick that button and use it throughout your entire application. However, in vanilla HTML and CSS, if you style a button, it is difficult for you to maintain the styling of that button, except maybe you create a style sheet and you are now using Tailwind CSS classes to style that button, which to me honestly doesn't make sense. Like I can't wrap my head around it. So when I'm working in React projects, I just because of that, I prefer to use Tailwind CSS in React projects because it just makes sense that things are being things are in components. So you're styling your logic, everything is together, right? But when you're doing vanilla HTML and CSS, your style and your logic, everything is just all over the place, and it can be quite difficult to track things. So I'll probably use vanilla CSS with some structure like BEM and all of that, and just move on with life. So yeah, if that answer is satisfactory, please just drop a comment in the comment section so that we can get back into it. So yeah, this live stream, we should be done in a couple of minutes. I will drop the quiz, and the first person to get all the answers to the, I've actually dropped hints here and there on how you get answers to the questions, but the first person to get all the 3 questions, the first person to get all the answers wins $29 t-shirt, stay with CSS t-shirt, or 20,000 naira in cash for people living in Nigeria. So yeah, so the tool, the state in the CSS in JS tool or framework that people seem to be using a lot in year 2022 seem to be CSS modules. So like I said, I think this ships with Next.js. I installed the Next.js application today and I saw the CSS modules, and it looked super interesting to use. Okay, yeah. So somebody is sharing why he uses Tailwind CSS, and I think these are pretty interesting. Somebody says, "I hope I win." If you paid attention to this live stream, then you're definitely going to win. I use Tailwind. One, lesser files, responsiveness, and flexibility. Yeah, that does it. Thank you so much for sharing that, David. These are reasons why Tailwind CSS like really makes life easy. So the CSS modules straight line. It looks like it's actually super interesting to use. I've used it. This is literally like today is literally the first time I'm using CSS modules, and it was just like very easy for me to use. So I guess that's why a lot of people are adopting it. Then you have vanilla extracts. I don't know what that is, right? Then you have emotion. I think there's a code base at Office that uses the styled JSX. Oh, there's styled component, there's styled JSX. See how we make life hard for ourselves. So then yeah, but the framework that has remained consistent over the years, which in terms of retention, usage, and awareness ratio over time, seem to be CSS modules. That's pretty interesting. I'm guessing React as a role, React and Next.js as a role to play in this. So ranking over time, wow. So in 2019, emotion seems to be at the top of this table, while in 2022, CSS modules are at the top of the table. So don't give up. Keep grinding. This is 2022. In a couple of years, you could be like at the top of the table. You could be an engineer in Google or anywhere. So yeah, start components. Wow. Start components seems to be dropping, and that's pretty interesting. From a third position to a second position in 2020 to a third position in 2021, now to like a fifth or a sixth position in 2022. That's amazing. I know a co-worker that literally is an advocate for styled components. I feel like styled components probably has a huge fan base of people using it, but maybe not a huge adoption, maybe not a huge adoption rate. Then we have styled JSX, which just seems to be going down over the years. So basically, what that means is that if in 2022 you're thinking of a CSS in JS tool or approach that you should use, you're probably considering CSS modules, vanilla extract, and probably stitches. I don't even know what stitches is, but then CSS modules, pretty straightforward. And if you don't know the way CSS modules works, please just install Next.js boilerplate. Look at the way the thing is set up and start writing CSS. You will enjoy it. It's very fantastic to use. So experience over time, yeah. So a lot of people say they would actually use styled components again. That is definitely expected. I've used styled components in the past in code bases that I didn't set up, and I honestly don't mind using styled components in projects, JSS, low CSS modules. A whole lot of people say they would use it again. Then we have Windy CSS and all of these other CSS frameworks that not a lot of people seem to know about. So if you're thinking of, like, again, if you're thinking of a CSS framework to pick up in 2023, you probably want to be learning start components and CSS modules, and probably Tailwind CSS on the side as well. So the positive negative splits CSS modules. 31% of people who have used this say they will use it again. They say, and a lot of people say they will, 22% say they will actually like love to learn the way CSS modules work. I'm sure if you're on this live stream, you are probably a part of that 22% already. Then just 9% says they've heard of it but not interested, and used it but will not use it again. That's quite interesting, right? Then other tools you have, CSS, and there's something called CSS in JS itself. That's pretty interesting. How happy are you with the state of CSS in JS libraries? Uh, Most people seem to be neutral, and I think I am with most people on this. Personally, for most projects that I've had to work on and set up, I've never had to use a CSS in JS, like, because to be honest, like, if I'm writing CSS, let me know I'm writing CSS, coupling the CSS. So the thing is, React introduced JSX, which effectively meant that we're already mixing up CSS with JavaScript. Now you are bringing CSS into the mix again. For God's sake, please let me breathe, right? Like, I just want my CSS to be CSS. I don't want my CSS to be in JS. I don't know if you get what I'm saying. So yeah, so a lot of people are just neutral, because in the end, like, you use it and it does the job, especially like when you are on a job, right? That was a rhyme. Did you get it? It does the job, especially when you're on a job. You people should clap for me or something. Then just 15.8% seem to be happy with it. 6.2% is unhappy. A bunch of people are very unhappy. Then 29.3% of the people who took the survey actually preferred not to say anything. So then we have other tools. We have preprocessors. SAS, of course, is still like top of the list. I wrote SAS last year. I probably will write SAS this year. Assembler CSS, I've never heard of it. I've heard about less. I think I've heard about Stylus. I've heard about Post CSS. If you write what do you call it? You say Porn Master, yes, so give me my crown. If you use Tailwind CSS, you actually use Post CSS under the hood. So I'm guessing that's one of the what do you call it? Of course, they say utilities that augment CSS. Yeah, so that makes a lot of sense. Utilities, Prettier. Who doesn't use Prettier? Who doesn't use Prettier? Auto prefixer. I can't remember what this does. Then Purge CSS. This is the holy grail of Tailwind CSS, because you're able to remove unused classes in production, and it makes your applications super fast. Then CSS Nano, I've never heard about that. Purify CSS, I've never heard about that. Then ACSS. God will be with everybody. Then browsers. Despite the fact that you people go on Twitter and shade Chrome every time, but a lot of developers still seem to be working in Chrome. So whatever shade that you have, or whatever opinion that you have, or whatever browser that you use, please, when the state of CSS 2023 survey is out, please fill it and let us see your opinion on this graph. And you people should not be making us on Twitter and we are saying otherwise on this report. So a lot of people still seem to be using Chrome. That's pretty interesting. I use Chrome, I'm using Chrome, and everybody uses Chrome. Then Firefox, Safari, Edge, then Safari iOS, then every other thing just kind of dwindles down the line. But you get the point. A lot of people still use Chrome. So stop shading Chrome. Yeah. Then, so library evaluation rankings. These are the things that matters to developers when they are trying to decide on a library, right? So in terms of documentation, you see that documentation is definitely one of the things that matters to developers. Let me see. Documentation round 2 wins. So it says results are ranked by number of tournament rounds won. Okay. So documentation. People want to be able to go to a website or a page and be able to read your documentation and make sense of it. I think that's one of the reasons I still use Tailwind today, because I had a project that was 3 weeks. I think I kind of tell this story every time, and I think I told it and I got it and I got a job. So I will tell the story again. Maybe I will get another job on this live stream, right? So I had a 4 week project that I was supposed to deliver. I have a project that I was supposed to deliver in 4 weeks. I'd have about 10 wins CSS, but I never used it before. So my plan was, if I'm able to set this tool up in 2 hours, then I'm going to use this tool on this website, right? Then I was able to set it up in 30 minutes, just because the documentation was so clear. You could do Command P and search for literally anything you wanted. And that's why I started using Tailwind. So documentation does matter. And I believe that everybody should read docs, right? If ye shall read the docs shall set thee free. Pastor mode. Yeah. So then the developer experience, like how easy it is, like after we've gone through the docs, and like how easy it is to use your tool, how accessible is the tool? Do you have things like IntelliSense set up for the tool, right? Those are things that matter. For the user experience, for the end user, is your CSS classes getting bloated over to the in production? Say for example, something like Tailwind CSS. Imagine that all the classes that ship with Tailwind CSS ships into production. Websites are going to be super slow. So where am I now? We are on other tools. We're almost done, essentially, right? Then user-based side, it really matters. If a lot of people are using it, then use it. And I think that's one of the true things about tech, right? A lot of technologies will probably not be used today if a lot of people are not using them, right? For me personally, I was comfortable writing PHP and doing server-side rendered website, but I discovered that a lot of people were using React, and companies were ready to pay a lot of money for React. That's why I started learning React, and now I have a job that at least pays me well, not very well. I'm in Nigeria. I work for a Nigerian company, basically. So I'm not any weights in that big band of, but then it just makes a lot of sense. Like if a lot of people are using it, there's definitely a reason why they are using it. It's probably they're probably getting a level of satisfaction from it. That's probably why they are using it. Community and inclusivity, right? I think that's pretty straightforward. Then creator and team. What is the profile of the person who has created something like this? So, for example, if someone like, okay, this is not CSS related, but if someone like Taylor Otwell does anything about PHP or creates a PHP tool, even if people are not going to use it, people will consider using it just because Taylor Otwell built that. If Adam Watson, I believe that's his name, the creator of Tailwind CSS, build something else after Tailwind CSS, people will most likely use it. But then it has backfired once. The person who created Node.js tried to create Deno and impose it on all of us, and people said no, that we're not using Deno. So sometimes the creator and the team really matters in deciding the tool. Like, what have they built over time? Where have they worked over time? What kind of solutions have they built? At what scale have they built it? Sometimes it can help determine whether you are going to use a tool or not. And the next thing is CSS usage. What? So a lot of people seem to be testing CSS on desktop. A lot of people seem to be testing on smartphones as well, then tablets. Then we have testing tools like Axe, Lighthouse, and all of those things. Oh, people are really paying attention to performance, right? Because if you are using testing tools, you are paying attention to performance and all of that things. Or probably you're writing tests in your code base, which I think is really amazing to see. So if you are building a website and you're thinking, oh, is it necessary to pass through Lighthouse or use other testing tools? This is an evidence that is actually a good thing, right? And the percentage of the people who test on desktop applications and smartphone is just about 10% margin. So if you are building a website, please test it out on a smartphone, test it out on tablet, test it out inside of your browser, and let's see how it measures up. Then you have screen reader print support. I think this is something I've never paid attention to. Sorry. I hope my boss is not on this live stream. He has better things to do with his time. Then you have feature phones. Then you have TVs, smartwatch, and gaming console. People are testing websites on gaming console. Is this a joke? 0.4%. Yeah, that value has to be really low. So what do you mainly use CSS from? I think this is not surprising. A lot of web apps, like if it's website, as long as you can see visual, CSS will be there, right? So a lot of people seem to be using CSS to build web apps. Then you have marketing websites and landing pages. I think this would be primarily for agencies. Then companies are using it to build design systems. I think design systems is for really large companies because maintaining design systems on both the designer side and both the engineering side requires a lot of time, energy, and resources. Okay. The reason I was shocked, or the reason I stood shocked, is because I actually discovered that I didn't test whether my mic was working before I started talking. So I was like, did I just do an hour live stream without connecting my mic? Oh, I beg go. I hope you guys can hear me this morning. Well, you people have been dropping comments, so I believe you can hear me. Okay, yeah. Then we have mobile apps, then email templates, yeah. Then CSS art and illustrations. I think this gained a lot of wave last year, and I think we're still gaining wave this year. I saw someone drew a horse with CSS. I'm like, what the? That's really pretty interesting to see. Then printed documents as well. People are using CSS for that. So how do people divide their time between writing CSS? Okay, you say you can hear me. Amazing. So how do people divide their time between writing CSS and JavaScript code? Right. And so I just want to give this tip. Yeah, if you're probably like a junior developer just starting out, and this is just like something that I wish I knew when I started out, right? If you're trying to build a project, I feel like it's very important for you to focus on one thing at a time, right? Sometimes just focus on the styling before you focus on the logic or calling APIs, maybe something like which is of course what JavaScript will do for you, right? It's very important because if you're trying to write CSS and write JavaScript, write CSS and JavaScript, sometimes it can get really confusing and you can get frustrated. But if you deal with the styling at least to a reasonable percentage, then you can start writing some JavaScript as well. But if you say, oh, you want to do a modal, then as you're building the modal, you're writing CSS, you're writing JavaScript. Sometimes it can get really confusing and all of that, right? So, and you can see that a lot of people, not a lot of people, right? People seem to be spending a lot more time writing JavaScript than CSS, right? And I think that makes a lot of sense because sometimes in companies, you already basically have all the components that you need to build an app, and all you have to do is just like couple things together and make it happen, right? So I've worked in projects like that where for weeks, all I was doing was just writing JavaScript and logic, and I was not writing any CSS. So this actually makes a lot of sense. So as browser compatibility has reduced, has increased, and a lot of those things. These are basically things that you can look through so that I don't take your time. Then missing features. I think these are things that are coming to CSS probably in 2023. You have CSS nesting, which is basically you can now do a class and say dot, and just the same way you would do with SCSS, right? That is coming. Then you have select. I don't know what that is, but you have a bunch of missing features that were okay, yeah, that people feel are currently missing from CSS. And conditional logic. If you add conditional logic to CSS, in fact, there's a lot of things in CSS that arguably we can say that CSS is a programming language, right? Because in CSS now, you can write variables. That's one of the features of a programming language, right? If you're able to set conditions, in fact, you are already able to set conditions with something like media queries and container queries because you are basically saying, if this condition is satisfied, then I want to do this, right? So if you're adding conditional logic to CSS, maybe more advanced stuff, then for loops. People want you to add for loops to CSS. Interesting. So you people want to turn CSS into a full-fledged programming language. We are here for it. We are here to see it. So yeah, pain points related to writing CSS. Okay, of course, CSS nesting, that would be very nice to have. Safari is a huge pain point because your clients, you build websites, they will have MacBook Pro, they will not install Chrome or Firefox. They would rather or prefer to install Safari. I don't know why, but then Safari is a huge pain point in writing CSS. Then you have CSS in JS. I don't have a problem with it, and a lot of people are neutral about this. You have scoping, performance, and a bunch of other things. How happy are you with the general state of web technologies? I think a lot of people are happy, but I feel like a whole lot of people are also neutral because I can't remember who said this. It says like web development has gotten to the point where we are looking for faster ways to build slower websites, or yeah, faster ways to build slower website. That was really because these days people want to do a landing page and they will just reach out to Ashro or Next.js or Gatsby.js just for a landing page, right? So for me personally, I'm just neutral on the state of web technologies, I feel like we will see find our feet eventually. By the way, this is not a Next.js banter, right? I had seen Next.js 13 and I was so excited to use Next.js 13. So there was like a small project that I was working on. I decided to use Next.js 13. And one of the reasons is because the file directory now, you could put components. In the past, you could not put components. You could not have, let's say, under the pages folder, you could not have, let's say, a cart or a dashboard page and have components as files inside of that directory, right? But with Next.js 13, they introduced the app directory, which is supposed to allow you to do that. And as I was looking through the documentation, a whole lot more stuff is happening. Now you need to have a page.js that is going to render the page. You need to have a layout.js that is going to inform the layout and probably import some of the styling. You need to have a head.js that is going to do the SEO and all of that. I just feel like, what is all this complexity just because I want to build a simple page and all of that, right? So I think for me personally, I'm neutral about the state, or like I cannot say if I'm happy or unhappy with the state of web technologies. I'm just like neutral. How happy are you with the state of CSS generally? A lot of people seem to be happy. I'm happy too. Look at me, I'm so happy. Then the next thing is resources. So most people seem to be self-learned. So a lot of people watch online courses. Then you have videos and screencasts, and a lot of people learn on the job. People read books. You people read CSS books. Double thumbs up to you. I envy you. Then coding boot camps. That's a lot. So you say web boss doing this makes me learn a lot. Oh, amazing. Good to hear that you're learning a lot from this session. We are actually going to be doing live streams every Sunday throughout this entire year. So please feel free to subscribe, drop a like, drop comments in the comment section. Next week, let me plug next week. Next week, there's this project I'm working on with a couple of friends. It's called otherfaces.tech. Now, I will tell you the story of why I'm holding my microphone after the live stream, but then I need to hang it like this for now. So otherfaces.tech. So yeah, so we are currently building this project, right? And we are currently in waitlist, but we are getting out of waitlist and we are trying to launch latest by February. So we'll be building this, and we'll be building this entire website or this entire project out live on YouTube, and that starts by next week. So do well to join us. It will be React, Tailwind, CSS. Let's have some fun. If you are enjoying this, if this is interesting, just drop some comments in the comment section. Drop an emoji. Let me know if you are enjoying this. Someone said the CSS book I read, I know finish something with the YouTube. Yeah, I feel like for something like CSS, it's a bit much more visual to watch a video and try to do what the person is doing rather than say you read a book or you read an article. Except maybe you have the fundamentals and the basics on a lockdown, then you could read books or read some documentation or some articles about CSS. Whoop, 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 whoop. Someone is excited. Yeah, we're building stuff. We're building stuff out. Yeah. So yeah, so the blog and magazines that people read, CSS Tricks, please, if you have a problem or you're trying to Google a problem and CSS Tricks comes up, please just go and read it. Smashing Magazine seems to be a bit more detailed. CSS Tricks actually was acquired by Digital Ocean, by the way, and I think it sold for millions of dollars. I can't remember the specific price. I can't remember the creator, but the creator of CSS Tricks also created CodePen and a bunch of other amazing projects. And it's just really amazing to see that things like this can be sold for good money. Then we have Smashing Magazine, we have Des.to, Medium, a list apart. I was hoping to see, okay, no, that was not what I was hoping to see. I was hoping to see Kevin Powell or something around there, but that would probably be under maybe personnel or something. Then we have sites and courses. A lot of people are reading MDN. Please read MDN docs. Then you have Stack Overflow, of course. Who are you going to be without Stack Overflow as an engineer? Then you have Free Code Camp. I don't know why less people are using Free Code Camp, but Free Code Camp is amazing, right? I owe a huge part of my career to Free Code Camp, then Web Boss, Web Boss. Well, whatever. We can let us farm him and say, where's boss? Boom. Then we have egghead.io. Egghead.io, some 5 years ago, I'm sure we have been on the top here, or maybe somewhere around here, but not a lot of people seem to be using Egghead. So what podcast are people listening to learn about CSS? I think one of the most amazing resource, even though it's not top of the list here, it's just program related podcasts that they ask for. But I think one of the most amazing podcast about CSS is actually the CSS podcast because it's actually by Google, right? And they dive deep into like a lot of basics of CSS. So, for example, for a long time, I didn't know. It said Chat GPT. Maybe by 2023, Chat GPT will be on the list, but this year, Chat GPT is not on the list, right? So, like, I wanted to give an example of something I learned on the CSS podcast. Like before, I didn't know that there were pseudo selectors and there were pseudo elements, right? So something like before and after, those are actually pseudo elements. Something like marker, that's actually a pseudo selector, right? So there's a lot of amazing things like on the CSS podcast. So if you want to level up your CSS game, please listen to CSS podcast. You are going to enjoy it. So people, Kevin Powell, top of the list, 630, 600 and something K subscribers on YouTube. That's not charged free. So a lot of people probably heard about CSS through Kevin Powell. It creates amazing resources and the consistency is really amazing. And yeah, and we have a bunch of other people here. Josh Cameo, yeah. Chris Koya, yeah. Chris Koya owns CSS Tricks and also Code Pen. Amazing guy. So other surveys, how people discovered, okay, other surveys that people participate in. Then you have State of JavaScript. State of JavaScript was what the team of State of CSS first worked on. In fact, they have like a working group now. They call it Devo Graphics. Basically, obviously, they are uh, taking Devo graphs, not Devo graphics. Let me hang my mic. Devo graph, Devo graphics. I think I was correct actually. Yeah. So the team is actually demographics. So they have other services like state of JavaScript and state of GraphQL. I think state of GraphQL actually started last year. Okay, yeah, this state of GraphQL started last year. Then we have all these other developers. I'm not sure. I think I tried participating in the Stack Overflow survey last year, but it just seemed like a whole lot for me. Then the next thing awards, which we've looked at, then the conclusion. So I think this conclusion is pretty interesting. It says last year, Killian projected that the way SSA was about to change forever, and this year's result validates his prediction because there are a whole lot of new features, container queries, and all of that, right? That seem to be coming to CSS. And like I said the other time, it's going to take like engineers. This is time for you to start learning new concepts. That is also to me as well. And if you don't want to miss the next state of CSS survey, which I think everybody should do, please go ahead and drop your email in here so that you will be notified. And to the time that you've been waiting for, so thank you so much, guys, for joining this live stream. I can see that right now we have about 7 people on this live stream. I hope it was fully worth your time. I hope you learned like a thing or two. If you did, please drop some comments in the comment section as some form of encouragement. Don't forget to like, share, and of course, subscribe if you haven't already. So I'm going to drop the link to the quiz right now. So there are just 3 questions on this quiz. There are multiple choice questions. So can people vote in the chat? Do you want us to do you want me to stay on this live stream, probably just play some music while people feel this, or we should just leave the form and in 24 hours we look at the results and the first person to get all the answers correctly wins. Whosoever comments first, that decision is what we are going with. So the form is already in the comment section. David said it learned a lot. I hope you will share this with your friends. I'm glad that you learned a lot. Please, let's see. Maybe I should just delve into front end. Okay, let me just show this comment on screen. David said it learned a lot with a lot of T's. Then Taiwa Aziz says, maybe I should just delve into front end. Okay, come and see small shege. It's easier to talk about these things than to actually do them on a day-to-day, but then it's not as scary. If people are doing it, then you can do it as well. So yeah, the quiz is out now. Nobody's dropping any comments, nobody's sharing any thoughts on what we should do. Should we uh should we wait on this live stream for people to fill the form and send in their responses? Let me actually beginning to check if people have dropped in responses already. The first person to get all the answers, then I actually didn't ask for people's email. Sorry, please. I think people have not dropped their responses. Please, I need to collect people's email and Twitter handle so that we can reach out to you. Sorry, please. If you are filling the form already, um please just wait. Blah, 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 blah. I need to change the form. Okay, yeah. So I'm just going to collect email addresses by default. I feel like that's the cheapest way. Then we can easily send an email to the winner that they got, they are the one who won the prize. So that's $29 on the line, or 20,000 naira for anybody staying in Nigeria. If it's your first time on the channel, please check out videos that we have on this channel. We create amazing stuff, so I believe, or so people have said, about software engineering and web development in general. Check out our content. Watch them. Let us know what you think. Drop your criticism, both positive and negative, and we would be more than happy to um, improve on them or make them better, right? So I'm still waiting for feedbacks. I'm still waiting for thoughts on. I'm still waiting for feedbacks. I'm still waiting on thoughts on what should we do. Should I wait on the live stream, or should we get back to this in 24 hours? Nobody's saying anything. Nobody's saying anything. No one is saying anything. No one is saying anything. No one is saying anything. Kudos, Kolawale Adiola, my G. How you doing? Thanks for joining this session. I think anybody who attended this session can actually attempt to, let me take this thing back to state of CSS. Can actually attempt the questions. So I think we might even end up going for the person with the highest score. So just go ahead and try your luck. You can literally like check out the survey and answer the questions. So the link, I don't know if I can pin a chat here. Let me see if I can pin it. Oh, put user in timeout. No, we're not putting anybody in timeout. We're not putting anybody in timeout in Jesus' name. This is a fun-loving place. There's no room for violence. So I'll just keep posting the link again. So I'll just keep posting the link. So that's the link. So that's the link to the so that's the link to the quiz. Do check it out. And I would expect people's responses. Since no one is saying anything, I want to thank everybody for come back after 24 hours. So that's what we are doing. Since that's the first response we got, I want to thank everybody once again for coming out. Like people staying through an hour live stream. That's not easy, man. I really appreciate you guys. Do enjoy the rest of your day. And can anybody guess what I'm about to say next? And please don't forget to build like a boss. Cheers. Yep.